Hi and good morning. I know it's an early live for me. It's so early, but I had to come in and talk to you guys because I am reading the book, The Pursuit of Porsha, and I done just finished all the chapters. Well, not all of them, but about halfway through her relationship with Cordell Stewart. And I had to come in and give you guys the tea on women who refuse to hold themselves accountable because I'm reading that book and I'm like, Porsha, Porsha, Porsha. You know how when you watch the Brady Bunch, they be like, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. This is me. Porsha, Porsha, Porsha. Because baby girl, no. Just no. The series of choices that she made that led up to that ridiculous relationship she got herself into, no, absolutely not. So I just wanted to talk to you guys about like women holding themselves accountable because I noticed throughout Portia's book, the book is called The Pursuit of Porsha. If you don't know, it's a pretty interesting read. She kind of just talks about her life, and how she became the Porsha that she is today, and all the different, versions of herself, from businesswoman Porsha to like I just want to be a housewife Porsha to Porsha who's like stealing husbands in side pieces. How she got from all of those iterations of herself. I haven't gotten to where she met Dennis in them yet, so we're not there. I am just still at the point where she's with Cordell. So we're gonna talk about that. So some of the major themes that I see inside of her book is like this reoccurring theme of her not giving herself the opportunity to let the relationship develop. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest things women struggle with when they're trying to find themselves as young women and they're trying to find the love of their life, right? Because everyone, not everyone, some people don't want to be married, some people don't want kids. But for the most part, women want to be married, women want kids, but they all don't take the time to necessarily find themselves, to like hold space for themselves to figure out like who I am as a woman independent of a man. For the most part, everybody wants to be like wiped up and swept up as quickly as possible. And you get yourself into these relationships where you're basically either assimilating into who the man is because you're trying to mirror the type of woman that he would want, or you find yourself in a toxic or emotionally or physically abusive relationship because you feel like this relationship is all that you have. So one of the things that Portia mentions more than one time throughout the book that I found very concerning was that she said that her relationships were her sanctuary. And it's not that she's saying she's found this like greatest love of all time and she found this man that she's mad about and they've been together for years and years and years and now this relationship is her sanctuary. That's a little bit different. She's talking about like men who she just meet. She's been with them for less than 2 years, and yet she's referring to these relationships as being a sanctuary or a place of solace for her. Yet these relationships are incredibly emotionally, physically, and like legit physically abusive to the point that she was even faced with, assault, like actual, like not just boom, boom in the face, but that different type of assault, actual assault. She actually faced that in one of her relationships. And I just wanted to be like, you know what? This is a good conversation for women who are just trying to find themselves as young girls and just thinking like, how can I pick the right partner for my life? And I think picking before I even go into everything that went on with Portia, I just want to start there because honestly, if Portia had taken the time to really get to know herself and ask the right questions, she probably would have made a better choice for the partners that she picked in her life. Because there's a very common theme. Like she goes from this guy she's with to this other guy who like assaults her. Then she goes to R. Kelly. Then she goes to some other guy she's dating who's like using her for money. And then she goes to right into Cordell. Good morning, Lint Liquor. And I think that the common thread among that is this unbelievable desire to be attached to something or someone and not really attached to yourself and your own self-worth. And so taking time as a young woman to let your relationship with another man develop is super duper important. And I think it needs to happen before you just rush into the bedroom and get yourself all physically entangled with a man and then you start getting blinded by the D, right? So how do you ask good questions to figure out like what's going on beneath the surface of the man that you're talking to? And to me, it's all about transparency. Like, I strongly believe that anybody who you feel that you want to give yourself to as a young girl and open your body and your mind up to, especially if you have a lot to bring to the table, it's super important to ask this guy, like, you know, about his relationships with his friends, with his family, like his relationship with himself, what his goals are for the future, like what is it that he wants to do with his life. And just seeing if he's willing to be open and transparent with you about how he wants his life to look, is a good cue for you as a young girl to decide if this is the kind of man that's serious or not. Because a man who hasn't even begin to think about that question, like if they haven't even considered like the future in any capacity, it's probably a big warning sign that this is going to be a relationship that drains you in one way or the other, whether it's emotionally, physically, or financially. And ignoring warning signs, like one of the things a man who's about to bring a lot of toxicity in your life will do is, and I talk about triangulation all the time because I feel like it's one of the biggest signs that women miss. Like, it's such a big sign that women miss. And then when the man triangulates you, you want to say, he did this to me, or he did this to me. He did, it was his fault, it was his fault, it was his fault, without ever taking a step back and asking yourself, like, what did I do to good morning, Hennessy. Not ever taking a step back and asking yourself, what did I do to allow him to feel comfortable to treat me that way? And I think that's where the accountability factor comes in. So one of the things that happens with Porsha and Cordell very early on in their relationship is his constant desire and need to bring up his ex relationship. To me, that is a major red flag, especially early on in a relationship. If a man is constantly referencing other women, like, oh, my last ex was the best, or oh, my last ex did this for me, or oh, my last ex did that for me, or oh, this is the kind of woman my ex was, and this is what you have in common with all my other exes. Like, that juxtaposition of him comparing you constantly to things that no longer serve him, right? Because if they're your ex for a reason. It's because these people no longer served you. Like, obviously, y'all are no longer aligned, and the mission is incomplete. So if a man can't let go of those past relationships, it's either one or two reasons. Either one, he's still in love with the woman from the past, and he still wants to be with her. And for whatever reason, she decided to set a hard boundary and say, no, I'm not going to tolerate your BS anymore. I'm not going to tolerate you abusing me and running over me as your girlfriend. And it's over. It's a wrap. I'm not going to let you cheat on me in my face, and I'm leaving. And it's a hard no U-turn. Or in other circumstances, it's the man trying to set up this triangulation relationship where basically he sets an unattainable goal for you as a woman. Because remember, if this woman is in the past and he's not in active communication with this woman, and you're not in active communication with this woman, he can constantly keep moving the goalposts forward for this unattainable standard of what his ex used to be. And men who are master manipulators are exceptionally good at convincing you that the woman in the past was this perfect pedestal woman, and that it was him that ruined the relationship, that it was him that broke things off, or it was him that made the mistake. But he kind of puts her in an idealistic state. And he does this because he wants to manipulate you and control you emotionally, and to create a sense of insecurity, a sense of deep-seated insecurity in you. That's subtle. It's subtle because it's not like he's saying, I want to get back with my ex. He's never going to say that. He's just going to say, yo, my ex used to be, we had like a vibe. Like, nobody, and me and her never vibe like anybody else, but, I screwed up or whatever. But, to me, she's always going to be that one person in my life that I always think about, like, dang, I messed that up. It's to create this unattainable standard for you. And it's to control you, and it's to make you feel insecure. Because if you are constantly trying to live up to the woman in the past, then that means neither one of you are living in the present. He's not, because he's not appreciating you for what you bring to the table. And you're not, because you're not appreciating yourself and what you deserve. You're trying to chase an unattainable goal because you will never be his ex-girlfriend. You can't be anybody but you. So one of the things I would say to take to a man, and in the Pursuit of Porsha, Cordell made it blatantly obvious when he accidentally, but it was absolutely no accident. His ex had sent him 24 roses because he would always talk about his ex. It was his baby mother, the mother of his children, how she was so perfect and this, that, and a third, and that they broke off their engagement and blah, 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 and everything was so good, but it was him that messed it up, blah, blah, blah. But the ex allegedly sent him 24 roses and was like, thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate you, with a card. And him and Porsha are out on a date. him and Porsha are out on a whole date, and Portia's like, I feel like you're trying to hide me. Like, I feel like you only take me out when it's late. I feel like you're always hiding me in dark corners. Like, what gives? Like, if you're supposed to be my man and with me, why is it that I'm always being hidden? And Porsha, to me, this is where holding yourself accountable comes into question, because if a man is only taking you out at certain hours of the day, if a man is only, hiding you away from the world and acting like you don't exist and pretending that he's living this single lifestyle when really he got an entire relationship with you and a blooming, blossoming, potentially blossoming family with you, but yet he still wants to hide you, that's a major red flag. And for you as a woman, you got to ask yourself, like, what is it about me that's allowing myself to stay in a situation where I can't even be seen with you in public? Like, you don't want no parts of me when it comes to the public space. I'm only good enough for you in the most private sectors. Or our love, and it is constant reference to, like, what we got is special. We don't got to prove nothing to the world. Like, it's between me and you. Like, this love that we got is us. It's me and you. Like, a lot of men will use that like, I'm a private person. I don't want to be putting myself out there like that. Everybody don't need to be in our business, because they want other women to feel that they're single. They want other women to see that they're desirable. They want other women to look and say that there's potential for me to get it, to wedge myself between their relationship, because if he was so proud of this woman, why isn't he showing her off to the world? Most men who are proud of the woman that they're with, they want to make sure that every man in the world know that that's his woman. That is an absolute fact of life. If a man truly loves you and a man feels like, this is my queen, this is the one that I want to be with for the rest of my life, this is my everything, I promise you there is no situation where he's going to hide you from the world. Men by nature are extremely, good morning, Stacy. Men by nature are extremely territorial. They're extremely territorial. That's why men are seen as the protectors and providers, because they're territorial. So by nature, a man wants to stake his claim. He wants to show, this is my property, not in like you're a slave or he own you. But you know what I mean? He wants every man to know, this is me right here. Like, when you see her in the streets, yeah, she's spoken for. She's spoken for. So to me, when a man doesn't want to show you off, when a man wants to keep you hidden, and he wants to use that excuse of, oh, I'm private, I'm into social media, but like, only when it comes to me. I'm not into social media when it comes to representing my true life, which is my family. When he don't want to post you or be a part of your story and your journey, that's a major red flag. And for you as a woman, ask yourself, what is it about me that I'm allowing myself to be hidden? Because if you feel like you bring a lot to the table, if you feel like you know what, I'm a boss chick out here. At the time that Porsha was with Cordell, she owned her own daycare center. She owned her own condo in Buckhead. Like, she was 29 years old and she had a lot going for herself. She was certified entrepreneur, but yet and still she was allowing him to treat her like she was a bird he just picked up off the street, and that she didn't deserve to be on his arm. She wasn't worthy of being out with him during the daylight. Only the baby mama was. And even with her, he would always kind of say, like, things just didn't work out between us. Like, you're different from her. And it's that constant comparison and juxtaposition of him putting you against another woman that you got to see as a major red flag. So fast forward, Porsha walks into the house and she sees that Cordell has these red roses on his table, and she thinks that the roses are for her because they're beautiful roses. So she's all excited. Oh my God, Cordell, you bought me these beautiful roses. Like, you are so sweet. But when she reads the card, she reads what the card says and realizes that it's from his baby mother and that the roses are for him. Mind you, he's been comparing Porsha to the baby mother for a while. He's been making Porsha feel like he's with the baby mother during the day and with her at night. Like, he's been going back and forth for a minute. And instead of Porsha being like, you know what, last straw, I'm out. Like, I'm not about to deal with this. I'm not about to compete with your past. I can compete with your ex. Either you want to live in the present with me or you want to go back to the past with her. You can't have both. So figure it out. Instead of her setting a hard boundary, she like gets mad and leaves. But it's almost like she just does it to throw a temper tantrum. Like, you know, those women who, like, they put you out, they say they leaving you, but really they're just throwing a temper tantrum and they ass ain't going nowhere, because at the end of the day, they don't have enough respect for themselves to even be like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. So I think Cordell must have figured that out. And like, she threw a temper tantrum, left, said it was over. And of course, within 3 to 5 business days, they were back together like nothing ever happened. Fast forward She ignores all of the red flags. She ignores the fact that he's controlling, the fact that he wants her to sell all her assets off. Ladies, let me explain something to you. When you are building a relationship with a man, I understand everybody wants the whole whatever Kevin Samuels deemed is a high value man, like, oh, this is some desire, some magical thing to attain, this high value man. But being with a man who makes a whole bunch of money and you make zero, or a man who just wants you to be a housewife, a man who wants to financially disarm you, to me is a major red flag. Now, I don't know, other women may feel differently about this, but for me, I don't care how much money my husband made. I don't care how wealthy we ever become. I don't see a situation where I don't work and that I surrender all of my financial wellness to somebody else to take care of me. Who I barely know. Even now today, with me and my husband, we're going on 15 years together. I still don't see a situation where I would do that or where I would encourage him to do that. Because when you are disarmed financially, like you don't have, you don't have any say so, because whoever makes the money has the power. Like, I mean, honestly, that's kind of how it is, especially when you got to ask for money to buy groceries. It's almost that man making you become an infant. He's like infantizing you. Like when a person wants to make you financially dependent on them, it's a means of control. It's a means of control, because Porsha was running, hey Yuli, how are you? Yeah, her book is really good. I mean, it's not like no New York Times bestseller, but if you're looking for like how to see red flags in relationships and just kind of like how a woman can make mistakes and get over them and like try to get out of bad situations, it's a good read. I like to use it for a case study because I think there's a lot of lessons in that book that we could definitely talk about. And so yes, I would definitely encourage you to read it. It's an easy read, and it's relatively entertaining. So yeah, like when a man wants to disarm you that way, and like it's not like you're coming from nothing. Hey Crystal, how are you? It's not like you're coming from nothing, and this man is saying, okay, you're in a bad situation, you're coming from nothing, I'm taking you in, and like you never had a job or you never really had nothing going for yourself, so now you're building from scratch. I could see you getting into a situation like that and be like caught off guard. But that's not the case for Porsha. Porsha was a whole entrepreneur with a successful business in her own $2 million condo in Buckhead. And I'm like, this man tells her, after, honestly, they got engaged after knowing each other for not even a year. They was married in less than 2 years. Like, you don't even know this man. Like, you just met this man on the street. And also rushing into relationships. Like, you don't even know this man. For about 50% of y'all relationship, he only took you out when it was dark outside and hid you in dark corners, and you never really got to meet anybody in his life. For 50% of your relationship, after you called him out and said you was going to break up with him, he comes back to you begging for forgiveness and says he wants to get engaged after he done embarrassed and humiliated you. Okay, cool. This man has shown you all the red flags, that he's a cheater, that he's a liar, that he's a manipulator, and that he don't value your opinion. But the moment you decide you about to run for the hills, now he want to come to you with an engagement ring. It's like, I don't want your gag gift. I don't want your gag gift, because at the end of the day, if a man screw up, and then he want to propose, to me, that's not a legitimate engagement. We didn't work to anything special. You literally proposed to me because you didn't. It's like a last resort option. Like, it's your final stake, the claim to control me. Like, if I just propose to her, all the crap that I did to her will go away. No, that's a temporary solution. The proposal is a temporary solution to a long-term problem, because what happened after they got engaged? They got engaged, and don't you know this man gave her a recycled engagement ring? He took the ring from the ex, took it to the whatever store, had them redesign the ring into a different setting, and then gave the ring to Porsha. And then constantly reminded Porsha that those diamonds were the diamonds he gave to his ex. Please explain to me why you would marry a man who would constantly remind you that every time you look down at your finger to get your beautiful engagement ring, you're reminded of his ex. Like, I look at my ring and all I'm thinking is, oh, Brandy had this ring. Yes, this man was so disrespectful. You know, she still married this fool. He had done so many disrespectful things to her. Cheated on her, lied to her, stood her up one time. Like, they were supposed to, for New Year's, he was supposed to take her out for New Year's. She got all ready. Man never showed up. She caught up with him a couple days later. He like, yeah, I was with my ex on New Year's and my son. Lack of self-worth, big time, Yuli. I was with my ex and my son. for New Year's, leaving you waiting for me to come pick you up and never show up. And she still got back with him and still got engaged to him like a couple months, like 2 months after that. Like, oh, and it's this, and honestly, it stems from her childhood with her father, because I don't know if you guys turned into my last live where I talked about this a little bit, but Porsha's father was incredibly emotionally abusive to her. He used to lock her in the closet for like a day, like literally would forget she was in the closet, wouldn't feed her, like, and she would just be in the closet because I don't know. And he was cheating on her mother and would take Porsha with him while he would have these affairs on her mother. Oh no, I put that on members only. That live is on members only. That's, of course, y'all don't know this because it's on members only. But yes, so I was talking about that, like emotional abandonment in childhood, from especially from a male figure, and you seeing your mother constantly going through such traumatizing things could have an impact on you as a young woman. And it can dictate the kind of partner you choose for your life. It could either make you choose somebody who's completely 100% opposite of what you experienced as a child, or you can repeat the pattern in a generational curse. You could absolutely repeat the pattern. And that's what Porsha did. Porsha repeated the pattern, and she was in desperate need to convince a man to love her, because I don't think she felt she could convince her father to love her, to like genuinely love her. And her father passed on before she had an opportunity to heal those wounds. So those wounds for Porsha, in my opinion, are still wide open. And as a result, she's going to these different men trying to heal her daddy issues. Yes, it definitely dictates your behavior as an adult. She's trying to heal her daddy issues, and she's trying desperately to heal them through these different men and creating chaos in her life. So fast forward, Cordell is cheating on her left and right with the baby mama. Porsha knows about it, but she's in this desperate attempt to win. That's the thing that also kills me. If you are a woman and you really feel you bring something to the table, and I encourage women to do this, do a self-inventory. I'm not saying live in like the delusions of grandeur, or to live in like this, this state where you just think your shit don't stink. I'm not encouraging that. I do truly encourage living in the real world and taking real self-inventory of who you are as a woman. And I encourage women to just say, listen, before you decide to discount your worth as a woman, before you decide to say, I'm going to settle for what I can get, I'm going to take what I can get, I'm going to just, this man looked at me just a little longer than the last man, so I'm going to just marry him, I'm going to just settle, or whatever. Before you decide to do that, do some self-inventory. Like, honestly, make a list and be real with yourself. Like, what do I as a woman bring to the table? Am I smart? Am I funny? Am I good at solving problems? Am I a good friend? Am I, a good communicator? Do I give good advice? Like, what is it that you bring to the, am I educated? Do I know how to raise kids well? Am I like, what is it? Do a self-inventory and make a list. Because sometimes as women, we forget to remind ourselves of who we are. Like, we forget. It's so easy, especially if you become a mom, or you become, you get into a couple bad relationships. It could really destroy your self-esteem, because you could be like, yo, I've been in so many relationships that have failed, that you can begin to question like what you bring to the table. And it's a normal reaction, right? Because failure is scary. And if you've had failed relationships, you question yourself. So I'm not discounting Porsha questioning herself and having low self-esteem, but I do think it's important that as a woman, you take time to do a self-inventory and like, all right, what do I bring to the table? Like, who am I? Like, who am I? And then hold yourself accountable to finding a partner that complements what it is you bring to the table and that values what it is you bring to the table, which leads me back to the right questions to ask your partner on a, when y'all are like a weekend on a date, get to the nitty gritty. A lot of people want to avoid the hard conversations because like, I don't want to scare him off. Like, I want to avoid this. I don't want to scare him off. But honestly, you got to ask hard questions. You got to have hard conversations. You could save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of time. So if you ask a man, like, what does he value in a woman? And you see that that's not something you put on your list, like that ain't on your list of what you think you bring to the table, then this may not be a relationship that's in alignment for your future. That's how I feel. Like, you don't got to show him your list, but a lot of people say, oh, make a list of the type of man you want. Like, that's always the common advice. Like, what kind of man do you want to be with? Make a list. And you know what I'm saying? Does he live up? I agree with that to an extent, but I also agree with making a list of who you are as a woman and seeing if that man fits into that lifestyle. Does he fit into that lifestyle? Like, if you're the kind of woman that doesn't want to be a housewife, you're the kind of woman that doesn't want to cook and clean all day, you don't want to do laundry, you don't want to be at home raising the kids, you want to have your own life as an entrepreneur and also be a mom, but like you want to be able to outsource, right? You want to be able to bring in help. And he's the kind of man who wants a traditional family woman who enjoys raising the kids, like, you know, from a ground up, and like she's ingratiating herself into that as her primary priority. If you know that that's not who you are as a woman, you're doing yourself a disservice by aligning yourself to a man like that. Because he's being honest with you. Don't alter yourself, because that's not thank you, Lynn Liquor. Don't alter yourself, because that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. I'm keeping it. Like the live, guys. I always forget to say that, but like the live if you're here. It's not sustainable. Like, it's definitely not sustainable, because you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you are changing yourself to fit into who he wants, and not complementing each other. You should compliment him. He should compliment you. And of course, as you guys evolve and grow and have new goals as a family, they obviously morphing is natural, right? You're naturally going to evolve like a butterfly, right? You're going to naturally evolve as a relationship, but it should not start out with you as a woman constantly compromising to be the person you're not. And that's what Porsha did with Cordell. She was not ready to be a mother when she first met Cordell, especially not to a child that wasn't hers. So she was like, you know, she was expecting to like marry him. And then they have this whole honeymoon phase where she gets like a year or 18 months, and they live and they bask in being newlyweds, I'm sorry. And then the child would come into the relationship, obviously, and you know, she would be a part-time mom. That's what she was expecting, to be a part-time mom. That's not what happened. The moment that Cordell and her got married, he bust a prenup out on her like a couple days before the wedding. Like, prenup. Porsha said she fought him tooth and nail. Was like, I'm not signing no prenup. Like, I'm not signing no prenup. And she won that battle and did not get like the traditional prenup that he wanted. I don't know what ended up happening with that, because she kind of left it vague. But she was just basically like, I'm not signing no prenup. I guess she felt like, listen, I don't want to be in a marriage where I don't, you know, make money off of this relationship if it goes sour. That's how I took it. And I do want to say, like, outside of me just looking at Porsha from like a self-worth perspective, I do want to say that Porsha has shown a lot of behaviors throughout this book that illustrates she is like gold digging a little bit. A lot of the relationships she get herself into are men who have a very specific personality type. Like, they're controlling men who have a lot of money, and she puts on this subservient personality, this delusional personality, this submissive personality, in order to disarm them and for them to start giving her lots of money. She almost presents herself as like a dumb person so that she can manipulate them into giving her money. And she's done it very craftily. Like, she talks about what the first guy she was with, she was getting him to pay her payroll for her daycare. But yet and still, she makes herself out to be the victim in a relationship and said that he was mean to her. And I'm like, well, Porsha, he might have been a little controlling, but he was pretty much paying a lot of your bills. So not really sure about that. Then she goes on to the other guy she meets, Southern John, who does assault her. But the underlying theme of that is Porsha stole. She said she didn't steal it. She said he gave it to her. But in my opinion, she stole his credit card, went to the mall, and bought herself essentially an engagement ring, because he mentioned that he wanted to get her a promise ring. Instead of her letting it happen organically, she goes to the mall and spends 3 months of what she thinks his salary is on his credit card and buys herself a ring. Comes home and was like, look, babe, look what I got from the mall. And he was like, what the hell? That is financial abuse. When somebody takes your credit card and spends money without your permission, that's called theft. That's called fraud. That's called a crime, right? You committed a whole felony, Porsha. And instead of him calling the police on you, he got really angry and did something very unthinkable to her. And she should have called the cops on him as a result of that. But, you know, but at the end of the day, Porsha needs to take accountability for the fact she refused to. She was like, but I don't see what I did wrong. Okay, going to the mall and spending $60,000 of somebody's money on a ring, on a credit card, that they got to pay that bill at the end of the month just because you think he's rich. It's unacceptable behavior. And then you want to be the victim in a situation when he's furious and not talking to you and banging on the wall. And you're like, I was so scared for my life. I was hiding in the corner. And no, I'm not making an excuse for violence against women. He didn't, according to Porsha, he didn't like two-piece or anything. But if you rob a man of a lot of money, please explain how exactly do you expect him to react to such an aggressive, for you for doing something like that? How do you expect him to react? You know, so that was another thing that kind of annoyed me. Like, she does this whole damsel in distress act a lot. And yes, sometimes you are the victim. Yes, sometimes women are truly the victim, but sometimes you get yourself into dumb situations by making a series of dumb choices. You can't call victim. Like stealing someone's credit card, getting and then being scared when he's mad at you for robbing him for $60,000 or so. Doesn't necessarily work like that. But I digress. Back to Cordell. So they fast forward, they decide to get married despite the prenup situation. He was basically going to financially rob her in the prenup. Basically, she was going to walk away with nothing. And she was like, I ain't signing this because I ain't marrying you for nothing. She gets him to spend $3 million on the wedding. Now, there's two things I think is happening with that. One, Porsha just wanted to prove to everybody that she got picked and she's marrying a very rich man. That whole wedding was just for optical illusions and for glamour and glitz. That's number one. Number two, he threw Porsha a $3 million wedding because he wanted to show his ex Brandy what she was missing out on. Like he was just stunting on her with that whole thing. Like, you know how you go and you like a rebound relationship, but you want to use your rebound to make your last partner feel bad for not sticking through with you. So you want to make your new relationship seem so perfect, so bomb, so lit. You want to start spoiling your new spouse. You buying them gifts unnecessarily, but really you just trying to atone. You're trying to atone for that bad relationship you had and make that person feel bad about leaving you. Like, look what you missed out on. But let me tell you what happens when you try to stunt on your last relationship with your new relationship without getting to know the person you with. Because that's what Porsha was doing too. To all the guys who burned her, I married Cordell Stewart and I'm having a $3 million wedding. Yeah, Porsha. She literally says in the book that the day after her wedding, she was like, I don't know, I made the biggest mistake of my life. Well, since you didn't realize, she was like, yeah, my mother was sitting in the wedding with a dark cloud over her head because she knew I was making a horrible decision. Everybody knew it was a bad decision. So you mean to tell me your mama knew, your sister knew, your late father, he didn't know, but everybody in your family knew that you marrying this man was a horrible decision, but yet you still decide to marry him anyway, and you even knew. No. And she was like, I woke up the next day and realizing I made the worst decision of my life. No, you woke up the day of that wedding, the day before that wedding, 2 weeks before that wedding. You knew it was the worst decision of your life, but you wasn't going to let your fairy tale wedding, you wasn't going to let winning, the thought of winning, you wanted to win so bad you put common sense to the side. Like you just wanted to beat Brandy, that was the ex name. You wanted to beat Brandy. You wanted to let Brandy know that you don't matter no more. He married me. He never married you. But yet you realize why Brandy didn't marry him the day after you got married, because you realized he was an ain't-ish dude and he was never going to be ish. So fast forward, the moment they get married, he tells Porsha she got to sell her condo. She got to get rid of her business. He don't want no working woman. Y'all know, if y'all saw first season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, then you know that was the whole situation with him and Porsha. Like she couldn't work. She couldn't go to a strip club. She couldn't do nothing. He basically began the cycle of abuse. So if you guys are not familiar to how abuse starts when you are in a relationship, I'm going to give y'all a quick little synopsis. Most men, some men will just go straight to punch you in the face. But for the most part, that's not how it happens. Usually before a man puts his hands on you, there's a series of steps that he will take in order to shake up your reality, is what I call it. Step number one is triangulation and emotional manipulation. They have to make you lose faith in reality. And when I say lose faith in reality, that means for you to start to question who you are as a woman and who they are as a man. They want to just put doubt over everything. And then the triangulation, putting you against other women, looking too long at another woman, engaging in inappropriate conversations. That's the first step in breaking down your self-esteem. Like, disarm your self-esteem. Step two is altering your reality. And by that, they start saying little things like, you're so stupid. Like, that was a dumb decision. Like, why would you even think about something like that? Like, do you even know how to use your brain? Then it gets to breaking down your intellectual capacity. That's step two. Step two is to convince you that you're not as smart as you think you are. So first, put you up against another woman. Second, convince you that you are either too sensitive. Oh, and I hate that too. Oh, you're so sensitive. You're overreacting. They want to make you question what you really see is there, right? Question what you see is there. Tell you you're sensitive. Emotionally manipulate you and break you down. That's step two. Step three is isolation. Isolation. What did Cordell do to Porsha? All of these steps, triangulated her, broke her down, started calling her stupid and telling her, she wasn't good enough. She couldn't get anything right, making her question her decision. She couldn't even pick curtains for the house without his permission. Like, he made her feel that nothing she did was good enough, or that her choices were wrong. And this can be something as subtle as the man saying, why would you pick this paint color for the house? Like, why would you paint this room this color? This is an ugly color. Like, they just constantly critique every little decision you make, because they want you to question the reality that you know is real, and they want you to question yourself. They want you to have self-doubt. That is an emotional manipulative tactic. So that's step 2. Step 3 is isolation. They start telling you can't hang around your friends or family members. Can't hang around them. You can't hang around your friends or family members. They start coming up with wild, inconsequential reasons why this person shouldn't be in your life. Oh, you should never forgive this person. Or, oh, I don't like the way she spoke to you. If I were you, I would never speak to them again. Or, oh, they're not allowed in my house because they're too loud. Or, oh, such and such is disrespectful. Or, oh, such and such is that. They try to corner you and to like make you question your friendships and your relationships with your family members, because they know that in order to control you, they got to control the narrative around you. They have to control the narrative around you in order to control you. So that's what Cordell did. He started isolating Porsha from her mom, from her sister, from everybody. She literally couldn't invite anybody to the house, and she couldn't leave the house. Like, you're calling this relationship your sanctuary, where really this relationship is your prison. It's your prison, because everybody on the outside know that this man is abusive, but you so hell-bent on being with him and proving everybody wrong that you are not only looking like a fool, but you are also losing every real relationship you have in your life with real people who really care about you. And that's actually the most scary part of the domestic violence cycle, is that isolation, because you start being in a hole. Like, you start falling into a deep, dark depression and into a hole, and you start feeling like you're all alone in this world. And that's when women start saying, like, I feel like I have nobody but him. And that's how men start saying to women, it's me and you against the world. Like, that conversation gets scary when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't want you to have relationships with anybody else in your life. That's a very scary conversation. So that's step 3, is isolation, which he did to her. Put her against all her family and friends. Nobody could come to the house. She stopped talking to people. She wasn't picking up the phone for people. She just was like off into her own little world. And then 3, we did 3. On 4, that's when the small acts of violence start. Once they got you cornered and depleted from your resources, made her sell all her assets. She had no money. She had to ask him for money for groceries. She was like, oh, I was so enthralled with becoming a housewife. Like, I thought this was going to be the perfect life for me. No, baby girl. If you don't got no money, how you going to rescue? If you don't have access to your own bank account, good morning, T. If you don't have access to your own bank account, please explain to me how you are going to save yourself when it's time to run. We're discussing the pursuit of Porsha and her relationship with Cordell Stewart, and how women don't hold themselves accountable. And this is the part where I'm talking about Porsha holding herself accountable, because you can't be smart and dumb at the same time, Porsha. You can't be smart and dumb at the same time. Like, you can't be that smart that you're that dumb, because anybody who's anybody knows that if you don't have any money, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going when he start punching you in the face and busting you upside the head? You can't go anywhere. If you ever saw the movie Enough, where like she goes to the hotel and it's like, oh, your credit card is declined. They freeze the bank accounts. They take your name off the accounts and everything. Don't you know that every time he would give Porsha money, no matter what it was for, he would put on the check loan? This was his wife. This was his wife. And in the memo line, he would put loan. He would put loan. No matter what he gave her money for, he didn't let her have health insurance or nothing. Like, when I tell you, this is the classic sign of a manipulative narcissist and a man you need to run from. Oh, she definitely prayed. T, I said that earlier in the conversation. You hit the nail on the head. She absolutely plays dumb to attract a particular type of man. Absolutely. I literally said that like 10 minutes ago. Absolutely. It's a strategy. Damsel in distress syndrome. Men like to save somebody. So, of course, you got to be. I talked about the damsel in distress in one of my other lives. But exactly. She's putting on as this damsel in distress act. And she got herself into a damsel in distress situation for real, when this man is laying paws on you. He throwing bows at you. And yeah, that's what happens when you play stupid games. You win stupid prizes. But I digress. So instead of holding herself accountable to being like, you know what, I am a smart businesswoman. Why am I going to get rid of my lucrative business and my way to provide for the family for this fantasy of a life with a man who has demonstrated over and over and over and over again that he will abandon me? Like, this is a pattern of behavior. She does it anyway. She doesn't sell her condo because of some reason. She says, "Oh, it's an investment. We can make money off of it." So she never sold the condo, but she gets rid of her business, her very successful business. She gets rid of it for the hope and dream of love that she has found. Even though, yeah. So that basically makes her financially destitute because the condo's not really bringing her any money. And from what I'm gathering, it's almost as if she didn't even rent the condo out. She kind of just had it sitting there, and Cordell was paying the mortgage. Yes. So Cordell tricked her, right? Because he who writes the check controls the asset. So, in my opinion, the reason why when he would pay her mortgage or any of her help her with any of her bills, he would put loan is because whenever if they were to get divorced, he wanted to be able to go to the bank and say, "I wasn't paying her mortgage as her husband. I was paying her mortgage as a loan." Look at all the checks that say loan, 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 loan. This your husband. He loaning you money. Where they do that at? Okay. Being stupid is a hobby. All right, Porsha, I see you. Whatever. Fast forward, the most disgusting thing happens. And to me, this is the unforgivable act that she still stayed in this marriage. And at that point, I realized ain't no hope for Porsha. And I hope she's better now. I'm only halfway through the book. So I'm hoping by the time I get to this end of this book, I have a very different opinion about Porsha. But up until this point, I am deeply concerned about her and her mental well-being and her self-worth. Cordell gets her pregnant. He gets her pregnant. Porsha has fibroids. So because of her fibroids, they were growing rapidly in her womb. She, yeah, look at her situation now. So clearly she ain't learned T. But I'm hoping by the end of this book, there's some epiphany I don't know about. Right? I'm hoping because it's looking real scary. So he gets her pregnant. Cool. She goes home. She tells him she's pregnant. He's like, "Oh, wait, great, a baby." She has fibroids. Her fibroids are growing rapidly in her womb. Like they're growing rapidly in her womb to the point that the doctor tells her at like 3 or 4 months pregnant, like she's pregnant, like pregnant, that she's going to have a miscarriage in the next 2 weeks because the baby is cornered inside her womb because of her fibroids. And the baby won't survive. Now, we're not talking about 6-week miscarriage, a 5-week miscarriage, 8-week miscarriage, where it's like a period, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, some stuff comes out, but really it's kind of like a heavy period that just hurts a lot. We're not talking about that kind of miscarriage. Trigger warning. I'm sorry, I should have said trigger warning. We're not talking about that kind of miscarriage. We're talking about a miscarriage where this baby is like a solid baby. It's not an embryo. It's not what do you call it? A blighted ovum. Yeah, I think that's the stages. First, you have a blighted ovum, and then it's the embryo. It's not a blighted ovum. I think that's the term. That's when you're like super early on. I think it's called a blighted ovum. And then you have like an embryo, and then you have like a human with like fingers and toes and eyes, even though the eyes are fused shut. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. She has a whole baby in her, like a 4-month-old baby, I believe, that she has to, at some point, witness come out of her body because she's having a miscarriage at home. And don't you know, she told Cordell, "Hey, we're going to lose our baby in a week." Cordell knows the baby is going to be lost. Portia's going to be home and alone. It could happen at any moment. Don't you know this man told her the day before her miscarriage that he knew was coming the next day? "I won't be here. I'm going to a golf tournament." A golf tournament. A golf tournament. This man, when you are about to give birth to a stillborn baby, has told you that he's going to play golf. He's going to play golf. He's just leaving you. At that very moment, the fact that she stayed in that relationship is told me everything I needed to know. I don't know how you could forgive such a thing. This man has told you he don't give a hell if you live or die because the amount of Black women that pass during childbirth is crazy. He has told you he don't care about the loss of life of his child because golf is more important. And he doesn't care about your emotional stability while you're pushing that baby out and whether or not you might do something unthinkable to yourself. Because that's a traumatic thing for any woman to experience. That level of disrespect, I don't know how that becomes forgivable in any capacity. I don't know how she was able to say, "You know what? that did happen to me. You did do that to me. Go ahead and play golf. And when you get home, I'm going to make you breakfast in the morning. Because when he got back, she was still cooking him food. How are you talking to somebody who literally doesn't care if you live or die? He does not care. He don't care if you live or die. He don't care if y'all offspring live or die. That is the most selfish thing you could ever see in a man. But for her to stay and then still want to be the victim, I get it, right? You're the victim when he does it, right? Like he did some horrible, disgusting crap to you. You are allowed to be the victim in that situation. You got abandoned by your man when you were pregnant and giving birth. He left you destitute. You are the victim. But once you decide to come back home and stay and decide to continue to cater to him and decide to continue to excuse his poor choices and bad behavior, you are no longer the victim. You are a willing participant in bullshit. Like, I like this. This is swaggy. This is exciting. This kind of abuse is just wonderful. No, what is it about you? At what point do you as a woman sit back and say, well, what am I dealing with emotionally and psychologically that this seems okay? Like, what am I dealing with? And then go deal with that. Because that's what really needs to be dealt with. Because Cordell, he know who he is. He never stopped being who he was. He abandoned you plenty of times before y'all got married. He treated you like crap before y'all got married. He was nasty to you all along. He was kind to you when he wanted to be, but he would just so quickly pull that kindness away. And you stayed. He showed you who he was. You refused to believe him. So who is the crazy person here? You were him. What does he say? But she continues to put herself in unhealthy relationships. Absolutely, so unhealthy. And it's because she has yet to deal with whatever happened between her and her father, which was very traumatizing. I couldn't imagine one of my parents locking me in the closet for a day and not feeding me food. That's like some stuff. If y'all ever read that book, A Child Called It, that's some kind of stuff you would see in that book. Like, that's severe abuse as a child, to be locked in a closet in the dark and forgotten about. Like, you don't even matter. That could do something. And it wasn't even like a one-time thing. It was a regular occurrence. It was happening like every single weekend. He would do that to her and her brothers. And her, I don't know if he did it to the sister, but her and her brothers. It's very scary and horrible. And I hope she needs intense psychotherapy for that, because the pattern, you're repeating it, boo. Women never take accountability for willingly chasing men and they want to be the victim. It burns me inside. It burns me inside, Yuli. You're like, some women do not want to take accountability. They don't. They just want to be like, he did this to me. Like, woe is me. Like, he cheated on me. He hurt me. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes. The first time someone cheats on you, yes, you are the victim. You have been hurt. But at that point, you have a choice to make. What choice are you going to make? Are you going to stay or are you going to go? He made his choice, and his choice was to cheat. He made his choice. You got a choice to make. So when you decide to stay in that cheating, you no longer have the ability to fight, that same way. You lose your armor. When you decide to stay in a relationship with somebody who is legitimately cheating on you, I'm talking like reoccurring issue, sleeping with other women, going the distance. I'm not talking about liking photos or inappropriate texts here or there, or like, I'm talking about legit cheating. Like, I am sleeping with other women and you are aware of it. And you decide to say, okay, he showed you who he was. You believed him. You forgave him. Okay, the first time you might forgive him. The second time he does it, why are you still there? Because when he cheats the first time, he's like, okay, what can I get away with? That's basically what a man is saying. When he sleeps with another woman the first time and you find out, he's basically saying, I want to see what I can get away with. And when you take him back after that, he's like, either it's only going to go one or two ways. Either one, he made the biggest mistake of his life and he realized the error of his ways. And he was like, oh, hell no, I ain't never doing this again, because I almost lost the greatest thing that ever happened to me in this world. And I done had a moment of weakness. And God, I need you to deliver me. He's going to be repenting from here to Timbuktu. Like, I need to atone for these sins I've committed against this woman that I love. And he is going to do everything in his absolute power to make sure that she'll never even get a sniff, a hint, a wink of cheating. He's going to be like, oh, I don't even look at other women. Don't text my phone. Don't call me. Don't email me. Don't Skype me. Don't like my Instagram photos. Don't DM me. Nothing. Stay away. Abort. Because I ain't losing this woman I love. That's what a normal man is going to do, who is truly trying to absolve himself of the pain he has caused you. But that's not what Cordell did. That's not. He continued to do what he was doing all along. He wasn't coming home for weeks on end. She's like, and Cordell wouldn't come home for a week, and I would just be wondering, well, what are you wondering? I'll wait. What are you wondering? If your husband is not coming home for a week, I'm sorry, but men need intercourse. They need intercourse. They are biologically programmed to procreate, okay? And if he ain't coming home and sleeping with you, then please advise on who you think he's sleeping with. I'll wait. I'll wait. You think he just waiting in the wings for something special to happen? Because no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So she just played dumb in that whole situation. She unfortunately, sadly lost her child, and that was just unbelievably heartbreaking. I don't even know how she forgave him for that. That would be like that. That's almost grounds. You about to go play golf? Oh, we gonna play golf, all right? I got a club waiting for you. It ain't gonna be hitting balls. It's gonna be hitting something else. Maybe it will hit some balls, but it won't be the little white one you think it's gonna hit. Because to me, we married. You not about to do nah. You're not gonna turn your nose up at death on that's our child. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And you think you coming back to this here house? Oh, hell no. That's grounds for a divorce that there is no judge that I could willingly see. I don't care if you got a bomb lawyer. If you get a judge and you get a good lawyer and you go to the courts and you like, oh, hey, Millie, and you go to the courts and you like, I want a divorce because he abandoned me while I had to deliver our stillborn child. And he went to go play golf and told me that golf was more important, that he not even no golfer. He a professional football player. He ain't Tiger Woods. This ain't the, what's that? The tournament. This ain't no big championship. He ain't Tiger Woods. This is not his livelihood. He don't even play golf. He play golf as a hobby. So you're telling me that your hobby is more important than our child? Nah, it's a dub, dog. It is a dub. It's a dub. So to me, it was a no. At that point, I would have went to the judge and like, this is grounds for a divorce with no you can't even contest this. I want a divorce, and after I get my divorce, thanks T for becoming a member. After I get my divorce, I'm definitely taking you for all you worth. And we ain't had no prenup either. This is looking real good in my favor. And if she was gonna get out, that was her perfect time to get out and get this life she wanted to live. But no, she decided to stay. She decided to look past that hurt and stay in a bad situation that just continued to get worse. And still at the end of it, she gave this whole speech. Oh, what did Millie say? But I agree with you 1,000%, Amira. Remember when he sent her back that wedding dress crumpled in a box? Oh, yeah. Don't you know, God be trying to give you a warning. She said on her wedding day, she got this huge stain on her wedding dress. A huge stain on her wedding dress on her wedding day. And she was like, she should have saw that as a sign that things weren't right. But I think she said somebody told her, this is a stain on your dress, not a stain on your day. No, that was God saying something ain't right, sis. This is not what you think it is. This is bad. This is bad. You need to abort. Skirt. You need to get out of here. But she ends up marrying him. He abandons her. That's the ultimate betrayal, in my opinion. She decides to stay. And that's when she decides that she's going to put on this front that she has this perfect marriage for Real Housewives of Atlanta. And that's how she was like, I was a front. And everybody could see that through the screen. Like everybody who watched Porsha's first season of Real Housewives was looking at her like, what kind of woman are you? Like, what are you talking about? This is awkward. And she got a lot of backlash for being that whole bootleg Stepford wife. And you could see behind her eyes, there was so much pain. Like, I know I could. And this is me. And I was like young then. I wasn't even like, I was married, but I wasn't like that married to know. But I looked at her and I was like, that don't seem right. I don't understand. Like, marriage is about partnership. It's about partnership, if nothing else. And it is about communication. Like, if you want to have a healthy marriage, like, it's not that hard. I mean, it could be hard. Marriage is not easy. So I don't want to trivialize it because it's definitely not easy. It takes a lot of communication, though. Like, to me, I would say that that's the number one ingredient in a marriage is communication. You have to be with somebody who wants to communicate with you about everything. Because without communication, you cannot solve problems in a marriage. And then one person shuts down. And then once one person shuts down and there's no communication, your marriage is headed somewhere it don't need to be headed. So communication is huge. That to me is the number one test of whether or not you could be with somebody long term. Is how well do you guys talk? How well do y'all talk? I like to talk. You see, I like to talk. I talk to y'all. When me and my husband first met, that's probably all we did on our dates is talk. We would talk and talk for hours and 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 hours. Because I need to know you. He needs to know these things about me, I'm sure, and I need to know these things about him. Like, okay, how, like, can we communicate? Can we compromise, right? Because that's honestly that's what it's about too. Communication and compromise. And Porsha and Cordell had zero communication and zero compromise. It was Cordell way or the highway. She had no voice in her marriage. Who wants to be married to? She's like, but at first I thought it was great. Like, I didn't have to think for myself. No, that's not normal. Who wants to forget how to think? Who wants to be told what kind of car they gonna drive, what kind of shoes they could buy, what kind of clothes they could wear? Like, who wants to just be controlled in that way? That's not normal. That's absolving yourself. That's actually the opposite of accountability. You want to put all of your choices on somebody else. And I do know women who do that, who want to put their choices on somebody else because they want to absolve themselves of the responsibility for failure. Because that's also at the bottom of that too. That's also at the bottom of that too. When you are afraid to fail, when you have a deep-seated fear of failure, you will avoid making decisions in life, and you will put your choices in life onto somebody else because you don't want to be accountable for that failure. You want to be able to be like, well, you told me to do it, or you said it was a good idea. It's blame shifting. It's blame shifting. Now, did Porsha have a little bit of blame shifting in her? Absolutely, because she didn't take accountability for any of the parts she played in the bull crap that she got herself into. It was always somebody else's fault. And it was always her saying, but I just don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Well, I understand. You're making poor choices in men. Poor choices. And as women, we have to hold ourselves more accountable. We have to ask, what kind of crap do we got going on in our life that's making us choose these kind of men? What is it about me that makes me afraid to ask the right questions before engaging in a relationship? Like, what is it about me? Why am I scared? Like, why am I scared to ask this man how he deals with pain and how he deals with failure? Why am I afraid to ask this man what kind of goals he got for himself? Like, if you feel fear around that, ask yourself, what is it about you that makes you afraid to ask that question? Is it because you don't know those answers for yourself? Is it because you don't want to scare him off? Because if your reason for not wanting to ask him that is because you feel he will run, that means that you're not going to be emotionally secure in that relationship and that you don't really trust him. Those are two red flags right there. Your unwillingness to engage in that dialogue means you don't trust this man. You don't trust this man or his reactions to you having authority or having a sense of self-confidence. That's what I literally had this conversation with a client once. She was like, true story. She's like, sometimes she was like, I like sometimes not making decisions. Like, I like the fact that I don't have to think about anything. And like, she's a stay-at-home mom. I like the fact that I don't have to think about anything. And like, I like that. And I'm like, well, where did this stem from? Like, why do you say you like it so much? Like, where did this begin? And she was like, at the beginning, it was kind of just like everything I would pick, he didn't really agree with. Like, he didn't like the paint color. He didn't like the paint color I chose for the wall. I said that earlier. This was a true story. He didn't like the paint color I chose for the wall. Oh, he didn't like the bedspread I picked. He didn't like these curtains I picked. Like, I felt like everything that I was suggesting, he always had a problem with. So eventually I just was like, well, fine, you choose everything. And now I'm just so comfortable with it that he makes all the decisions. I'm like, well, are you happy with these decisions? Like, you're saying sometimes you're okay with it, but are you happy? Because it's a difference with being okay with something. Like, I'm okay with it because you want to avoid conflict. That's why you're okay with it, because you don't want to fight. You don't want the battle. So you're basically suppressing your true desires because you don't want to fight. You don't want to fight the good fight. That's what this really is, because you're not okay with it. You're not okay with it. That is a sign of you. That's a sign of you not feeling like you have the authority to stand up for yourself in your relationship. That's a character flaw on you, because he is who he is. He's making his choices. He's not sacrificing. He's not at any point saying to himself, well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't make this decision for my family without asking my wife, because she might not like it. So it's okay for him not to consider you, but it's not okay for you to not consider him. Does that seem fair to you? And sometimes people don't pull back the onion. Like, let's get to the root of really why you don't like something. Is it avoidance? That's a form of self-harm. I talked about that when I used to make my videos last year. Avoidance is a form of self-harm. lean into the shit that's going on in your life and take accountability for the role that you play in the crap that's going on in your life, because you can't blame shift. You can't. The first time, you're the victim. The second time, you're no longer the victim. You're a willing participant because you have a choice, just like he got a choice. He made his choice, make yours. As a woman, make yours. And so when I got to the end of Portia's chapter about Cordell, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of, and no, oh my God, when she said this, I almost fell down cold. She said in the book, and nobody ever did anything for me. Nobody ever did anything for me. Like throughout everything I've been through, I never had anybody I could really rely on, and nobody ever did anything for me. And when she said that, I almost wanted to jump through the book and smack her. I got so offended because I'm reading the book and I'm like, Porsha, you have literally for the first 7 chapters talked about all the things that these men have done for you. You have the guy who was paying your payroll when you couldn't make payroll for your daycare center and he was footing the bill. You have the guy you have Cordell who was paying your mortgage on your condo and flying you out and gave you a $3 million wedding. You have the other guy who let you take his credit card and buy a $60,000 ring that he still let you go home with. He didn't even take it from you. He still let you go home with the ring. He let you go home with that ring. You have guys giving you money left and right, flying you out, taking you on vacations, footing your bill for things you can't afford. And you want to really get to this chapter and write a whole chapter about how you could never rely on anybody in your life. And I say, if you are not the most ungrateful person I've ever seen in my life, I don't know who is. I don't know who. I've never seen anybody more ungrateful. And I don't know if, I'm only halfway through the book, so I'm still hanging out hope that Porsha turns the corner. And by the time I get to the end of the book, I've had this epiphany and I'm like, oh God, she got it together. She got it together. But to me, it's ungrateful. It's so ungrateful. It's so ungrateful. And I think this kind of ties into my live I did about friendships and people who are like, I had a whole segment in my live before this one where I talked about toxic friendships and like toxic relationships in general, and how people want to conveniently forget the good that they've done for you. Like it's like convenient absenteeism, like not absenteeism, Lord, convenient absent-mindedness. Like you're absent-minded when it's convenient for you. And that is a trigger for me. I can't stand people like that. Like you conveniently forget what I said. You conveniently forget what I did. That's a manipulative tactic. That's a gaslighting tactic. Like I'm gonna gaslight you and make you think that no, you never did anything for me. So now I got to go on the defense, because when somebody says something like you never done anything for me, your automatic reflex as a human being is to go on the defense and be like, but I did this for you. I did that for you. I did this for you. I did that for you. I did this for you. I did that for you. And then all of a sudden they start breaking down. Like you start to question, like, am I being appreciated? Or like, what is it about me that they don't appreciate all this good that I did for them? Like, am I easily forgotten about? Like, am I easy to be dismissed? And I don't like that. And so I think Porsha has got to do a better job of holding herself accountable and take responsibility for the fuck crap that she brought to her life, because she is responsible for that. No, you saw that Cordell was a horrible choice for a partner. You married him anyway, to the point that this man divorced her and didn't even tell her he was divorcing her. She found out she was getting divorced on Twitter, and that was a power play, because that man did not want her under any circumstances to have one up on him. He didn't want her to have one up on him at all. And when he saw that she was becoming semi-popular on Real Housewives of Atlanta, he said, oh no, this ain't what I signed up for. He told her, actually, not even thought. He said to her, there's only one star. There can only be one star in this relationship, and that's me. And that's what he said to her before he filed for divorce on Twitter. There can only be one star in this relationship, and that is me. Okay. Where we do that at when we got relationships where your partner doesn't want to see you be successful? Your partner does little things to sabotage you. Okay? Like hating on your career, downplaying your accomplishments, not supporting you, distracting you from your purpose, creating drama in your life like Cordell was doing, so that you're distracted and you can't focus on the assignment. You understand the assignment, but you can't get to the assignment because your partner is so goddamn toxic. They want to do everything they could possibly do in the world to make sure that you are constantly in a state of distraction, that you are constantly trying to troubleshoot and put out fires. Okay? That is abuse. You are in an abusive relationship when your partner don't want you to focus on the assignment. They don't want to do their part so that you can go ahead and win. They don't want to calm the noise in their own head and fade their own bull crap out so that you could be successful. They want to keep you dependent on them financially. And in order to do that, they got to take away your sense of purpose. They got to distract you from your assignment so that they can be the star in the story. Toxic. Don't be with nobody who want to be the center of attention all the time. They don't want you to shine, and nah, that's not normal. So hold yourself accountable, Porsha, because you knew that that's how he was when he was hiding you in the cubbies. In the thing, he knew that's how it was when he was telling you he was going to go play golf while you was giving birth trigger warning to his stillborn child. He let you know that you don't matter to him. You are nobody. You or your baby ain't nobody. But you stayed and you found out you was getting divorced on Twitter, and then you went home and was like, so you're divorcing me? Excuse me? Because she was like that. She wanted to get divorced, and he talked her out of it. But then he went and filed before her. Yeah, he wanted to humiliate you. You wanted a divorce. It was a problem. No, you can't leave me out. I can't lose you. And then the next thing you know, he filed for divorce. No, he just wanted the power. It's a power play, and you play right into that hand. Instead of coming back to your house and pleading for why he divorced you, you should have came back to the house and act like you never even saw it on Twitter. You should have been like, oh my God, today's a beautiful day. I would have packed my stuff up. I would have been like, I'm on my way to the mall. See when I get back. You would have been like, did she know? And I would have never came back home. Never. I would have played it cool. I would have played nice and cool. Left the house. You'd have never saw me again. Never. Like, oh, what happened? You ain't come home. You would have been like, you don't know. I wouldn't have texted you, called you, emailed you, Skyped you, nothing. You want a divorce? We got a divorce. You put it on Twitter. You showed me who you were. I believe you. You're not about to get you're not going to emotionally manipulate me into chaos, crying hysterically and blowing your phone up. Nah, you said what you said. It's on Twitter. I see you in court. There's nothing else to talk about. I'm not to come and fight and cry. Nah, not after you left me with my baby. Nah, nope. That was the last time you was going to see me cry. But that's my rant on Porsha and her lack of accountability, and how women some women, they just can't because they have to remain a damsel in distress, i.e. Porsha. That is an archetype. When you're looking for a Prince Charming, that rescue me, the man who's out of your league, the man who you think every woman wants, right? Because when I say Prince Charming, I don't mean like he has a good job, good benefits, and got his shit together. I mean Prince Charming, like the guy who you think or perceive that everybody wants to be with. Like the damsel in distress is always looking for that guy. Always. She ignores the guys who have like good jobs and like are regular and enjoy a sedentary lifestyle and just like want to come home every day and make cookies and have their own business and like just want to do the right thing for his family. You know, those guys, the ones that you should marry. Nah, they avoid them. They avoid them like the plague, because guys like that will not go after a damsel in distress. They won't. You know why? Because they like, I ain't got time for this kind of project. I got to get to the money. I got to get to the money. They don't want a damsel in distress. And that's why they break up with you. They break up with you. A man who is headed to have his life right will not marry a damsel in distress. He will see that and say, oh, nope. She going to distract me from my assignment. I'm out. Deuces. They're going to abort mission and head the hell out. But the damsel in distress will attract the manipulative, narcissistic Prince Charming who's going to treat you like crap and abuse you emotionally, possibly physically, possibly financially, and have you wake up one day and look around at your life and say, I lost everything I had. Because the way that the Prince Charming works is he going to build you up to break you down. And he going to use that build up, that momentum, right? That build up of like, you can have it all with me. He going to get you right there and use that as a drug that you constantly fiending for. You fiending for that rush again that he used to give you back in the day. That's what the Prince Charming going to do. Give you that rush, give you all that love bombing. That's what they call it. They're going to love bomb you and give you this aspirational life you think you about to have. And they're going to snatch the goddamn rug from underneath you. And you're going to be looking around at your life like, where am I and how did I get here? Where am I and how did I get here? Well, you got here because you're a damsel in distress. Get the hell away from Prince Charming and go get your life together. Stop being a damsel in distress. Okay, go get the help you need, go to some real therapy and get yourself out of that bad relationship, pour into yourself and your self-worth, spend some time being alone. It ain't that hard, figure out who you are and what you love, make a list of value you bring to the table, and then ask yourself, does this man align to this? Like, do we even think the same? Like, at a fundamental level, like, is my idea getting money, his idea getting money? Like, at a very foundational level. Like, do we view money the same? Do I want to make money legally? Does he want to make money illegally? Do I want to do this? Do I want to go on family vacations as a family? Do he just want to go on vacations and not take the kids? Do I want to travel and meet with our friends and build like black love? And does he like, I don't really like your friends. I don't want to hang out with them. Why? You know why? Because when an ain't-ish dude, he don't like to hang around dudes who got their shit together. Because nothing reminds an ain't shit dude more that he ain't shit than a whole bunch of men who got their shit together. They avoid it like the plague. That's a red flag for me too that we ain't even talked about. That's a whole red flag. If you don't want to be around men, if you are my man, my new boo, and I bring you around my homies or my homegirls and they men, and all of them got their stuff together and they all doing well, and you get real uncomfortable, real awkward, you start sweating, you don't feel like you fit in, like you feeling real uncomfortable in this moment. That's not the man you need to be with. Because the reason why he's uncomfortable is because he know that they see that he ain't nothing, and he like, I can't live up to that. I'm not even ready for that. Abort. And now he start making you question your friendships with those people. It start being like, I don't think they really was down for you like that anyway. I don't really like them. They ain't my crowd. I don't really vibe with them. We don't got nothing in common. I'm too hood to be cool with dudes like that. They squares, they lame. They start hitting you with all of them words because they trying to make, and then you start believing it because you stupid. You like, yeah, maybe he is lame. I do want a bad boy. Nope. He told you all of those things because he can't live up to that. Not trying to live in the square and with the family and raise the family and do right. He's trying to be in these streets, getting loose. They're not aligned. So that's my word on that. And if you as a woman, ask yourself, how can I avoid this to begin with? Same thing for Porsha. You can avoid it, boo. Stop chasing dudes like that. You see, she done flew to Dennis now, and they with nothing but another Cordell, except I don't think Dennis was two-piecing her. But same situation. But we'll get into that as I get further along in the book. I just wanted to talk about her relationship with Cordell and the themes I pulled from there. I hope you guys liked the live and found it helpful. I got some business to tend to, so I'm going to end the live here. If you are new to my channel, consider joining the membership. Like the live before you head out, and thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.